Hey guys, here we are on another episode of Data Lens where we cover topics, trends, and things you want to know. Here with Scott Barr, the president and CEO of Cairn Consulting Group. So the topic of today's video is 5 steps to effective market research. So with that, let's hop in. What are the key steps in the market research process?
Well, thank you, Justin. And in terms of the approach, yes, there are 5 steps. But the first thing you really need to do is, what's your problem? What problem do you need to solve with this research? And that's going to be your overall objective. That's going to be the umbrella over everything that you do throughout each of the steps that you take in terms of the tactics. So that's objective 1, is what are you using this for? It's typically used for problem solving, and it's or pain points, stuff like that. So your first step is then to define, maybe some more specific objectives within there. And those can fit how it fits into the company strategy. Does it fit, how does it fit with the brand? How does it fit with the competitive situation? So in terms of solving that problem, within that, you're going to have some other objectives that you're going to really want to define as part of this research. Now, you don't want the research to try to solve every problem you have, because then it gets too big, it gets too bulky. You want to be a little bit more nimble, but clearly define what it is that this research is going to accomplish for you. And that'll be your guide in terms of how you proceed, because you're going to think about what your methodology is. How are you going to gather that? That's part of your objectives. Once you define your objectives, is it quantitative, is it qualitative? Is it going to be a survey? Are you going to do some in-depth interviews or focus groups? So that's what brings you to the second step, is now let's gather some information. The gathering of the information could be data, it could be more contextual with qualitative information, but that could be considered data as well. But overall, how are you going to gather that? Again, that goes to your methodology. What's your approach? Again, is it interviews? Are you going to need to hire talent to do your interviews for you? Do you have it in-house? What questions are you going to ask? How are you going to approach this? Who are you going to approach it with? That is a big part of what you're going to do in this information gathering phase. And again, that based on your objectives, for example, if you want to do market projections, you're going to probably need to do some quantitative stuff. But if it's more developmental, maybe some creative testing, it could be a mix. It could be a little bit of both. But again, that's phase 2. You're going to gather your information. You're going to either do some interviews, some surveys, some focus groups, maybe even ethnographies, or a combination. Any combination there. It can be hybrids. There's a lot of folks doing hybrid work recently in terms of having both some quantitative and qualitative built right within the same effort. So actually a really interesting approach to research. Once you gather the data, what you're going to want to do is analyze the results. And if you do a survey, analyzing is pretty easy, honestly. It's like you put it into, we have great software for this. You put it in, or it could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be a statistical software like we use, or if you're going to have qualitative information, you're going to have to read through transcripts. You're going to have to go through those, and maybe at this point you bring in some AI to help extract some themes out of that qualitative information. And AI tools can be very beneficial in analyzing qualitative information. And from there, now that you've done your analysis, you've analyzed your information. It could be, like I said, it could be quantitative, it could be qualitative, and maybe you build in the two together. Maybe they're both part of what you're looking at here, and you have some contextual stuff through qualitative, and then you use your quantitative to maybe back that up, or vice versa. But that's all part of your analysis. And then the next stage is kind of creating, how is your audience going to digest this? And this is where you're going to create some, not just some text, some analysis, written descriptions, but some visuals. You really need visuals to bring in as a way to draw your audience into the analysis. And effective visualizations are the way to go. And if you can't do it yourself, find someone, hire a designer, someone who's effective at this. And creating an effective visualization means that it doesn't have to be really fancy. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, some of the most effective visualizations are incredibly simple, so that when the person sees that, instantly they know what they're looking at. And it's up to you to draw them into the key points and the key results. That's what it's all about, is bringing in the reader, bringing in your customer, whomever that is, so that they can easily digest this, that they can look at that and understand it. If they end up having to ask you a lot of questions of like, if someone says, what am I looking at? You haven't done your job. Your job is to make that visualization pop. And again, don't make it too complicated. Keep it simple, keep it very visual, but keep it attractive. Make it attractive. Think about the colors you use. Think about that. I mean, anyone who's ever worked with me can attest to the fact that I'm really into the colors that are used. What's warm, what's positive, what's more negative. But again, your reader is going to look at that, and they're going to immediately form an opinion on what you've just presented in the visual. And so it's up to you to draw them in once again with that visual. And the visuals with qualitative can be just as effective, bringing in quotes. Maybe you bring in some video even, or audio clips. Those can be very effective. The actual voice of the person is highly effective. And if you have an audio clip, it could actually really kind of bring the results alive. And then, the final, the fifth part of all this is, these actionable insights. This is where we feel that it's one of the most important roles that we have, is we've spent all this time, we've developed objectives, we've gathered the data and information, we've done the analysis, we've created a deliverable that has effective visualizations. Now what? What do you do with this? What does it mean? This is what sets the work apart from others. It's like, it is not just giving someone a report and saying, here you go, here are your results. It's like, what does it mean? What are the next steps? What does this mean for the organization? How does it fit with the strategy? How does this actually solve the problem? In many cases, if you just give people results, they may not see how this information solves their problem. It's up to you to show them, to lead them along that path. And that's, once again, where, the role of being an analyst, it comes in. It's, as an analyst, it's up to you to take this information and be able to tell the person, this is how it fits. How does it fit with all those objectives that we defined in step one? How does it get you there? How does it, again, solve your problem? How does it address your pain points? And this is what will make your research effective. This is what will make it digestible. And this is what will get people to come back and ask, let's do this again, because we need more information. This was just a tease. We need more. And that takes the research from being a project to a system to a process. It's like the research should be a process, and these should not be standalone. I've been preaching this for a long time, but it's true. And it is only by effectively addressing each one of these 5 steps, and especially that last one, that you can take your research, make it a process, make it a part of a company's culture, and it will make everyone much happier when you solve their problems.
Wow, that's awesome. That was a great overview of the 5-step process. And I guess my kind of small follow-up question to that was, we call it a process, but would you almost kind of see it as almost like a cycle? Because essentially you're going through all the different steps, and at the very end, you're kind of bringing it back to solve the initial objective, but doesn't that inherently create more questions and then create a whole new objective to solve?
Absolutely. In many cases, the research, if we knew all the answers, we wouldn't have to go through this. And in many cases, the research will beg further investigation. And in some cases, an organization may make some changes, implement, whether it's developing a marketing campaign or change their organizational structure or develop a product. Well, after that happens, then what? No, you need to evaluate what happened. And so now, that becomes the next stage. It's like, how did we do? Did this effectively do what we wanted it to do? Let's continue that process of evaluation. And again, that's a part of making sure that the research is part of an organization's structure. It's embedded within the culture of the organization. And that's, because then eventually what will happen is people within the organization will ask. If they have an initiative, they will ask. It's like, do we have research on this? And your answer is either yes or we're on it. So that, again, absolutely, it is a cycle. Again, one of the tenets that I use in all my work is I'm not a big believer in confirmatory research, which is confirmatory research is, here's what I feel like I already know the results, let's confirm it. I'm more of an exploratory research person, which means that let's go out and explore something new. Let's explore the answers we don't know. In many cases, confirmatory research will only disappoint you. And I can say this from experience. Exploratory is what brings this process alive. It's what engages people. It's what people want. They want answers to questions that they have that they don't already know. Again, one of the first rules of research is don't do research on stuff you already know. If you know the answer already, don't do research. It's not necessary. A lot of times companies have internal data. Use your internal data. Let's ask questions that you don't know the answer to.
Perfect. No, I think that kind of a great summary. But to actually kind of bring this all back around, just to summarize real fast, the 5-step process is defining objectives, gathering data, analyzing results, creating visualizations, and presenting actionable insights. But within a couple of those, as you were talking, after the first question there, kind of 2 questions came up. How do you define a target audience?
In terms of identifying your targets, that's built within your objectives. When you clearly define what you need to accomplish, your targets are going to organically come out of that. Again, is it your maybe current customers? Is it prospects? Is it both? Is it something? Is it decision makers? Is it end consumers? Again, that's all gonna flow through the defining of the objectives. So again, it's typically an organic experience. I believe in making sure you include more targets instead of fewer, because that way you have comparative results. Without something to compare the results to, it's not quite as effective, and you're missing a piece of the puzzle. So again, the targets come out of that whole process. That upfront process is typically one of the more intensive parts of the research, that defining the objectives, because again, as the targets come from that.
And then the second one was, how does AI integrate with market research now, and how do you use it effectively?
And in terms of AI for us, it offers a solution to some of some basic structural stuff, as I mentioned before, open-ended responses, text, people's actual words. It's, for us, that's the part of what we do that it's most effective with. It also helps us in terms of doing secondary research, which is using information from existing research sources, that it very easily can go out and find those resources, those sources of information and references that you need to use in your research. When you're looking up, areas of questioning, when you're looking up a topic to explore, to see what other people have done, AI will compile that for you, and depending on which AI platform you use, will give you those references so you can actually see the research. You can click on a link and go see the results of a study that was done. It could be an academic study, it could be a business publication, but by having those references, it backs you up in what everything you're doing. And again, everyone should be doing secondary research before they begin this process. And AI is a great tool for compiling that information. And you can even use AI to go and sleuth government websites, looking for information. Sometimes you need comparative, whether it's census data or employment statistics. That those departments that have tons of information. AI is really effective at going out onto those websites and finding those nuggets of information that would take you potentially hours to do, and it can do it in a matter of seconds or minutes. So those are the ways that we are effectively using AI right now. And in the future, who knows? It may help us with some other stuff, but currently I feel like one of the things that we as humans do well is kind of look at the emotional side of things. AI hasn't quite got the emotion yet. So if you're looking at issues, and most everything we do, especially if you're in marketing, involves emotion, we need to make sure that that part of the equation enters into everything we do. Because without that, you lose a lot of information. And also, we have information that we've seen and are able to bring things together that AI can't do yet. So we still have our jobs as analysts, but we're good. And sometimes by bringing those together, we can use AI to help us. Again, go out and search for other resources and sometimes help compile information from multiple resources. So yeah, secondary research is a great use of AI right now.
Awesome. Well, and kind of to dovetail with that, is there any specific one that you like to use a little bit more than the other, or what's their advantages and disadvantages?
Right now, I'm using Perplexity quite a bit, just because of the sourcing of the reports that it goes out and gets. It does a real good job. It's a little bit more robust, I feel like, for a researcher in terms of how it looks at data and information and how it compiles it. ChatGPT obviously is changing and building every day, and it has some good tools as well. But I feel like Perplexity is a little bit better for what we do, and its ability to look at PDFs and read a PDF effectively, including the images, a graphic on a PDF of someone else's report. For example, if you want to cite, say it's census data from a graphic that the government has done in this PDF format, it will extract the actual numbers from that. And now you can incorporate those numbers into your graphic for side by side. Use look at the visualizations, create your own visualizations based on that information. So that, to me, that function is incredibly valuable. And that's just my view. I'm not an expert at AI, but Perplexity has helped out tremendously.
Well, it's good to know, I think, especially from a kind of a ChatGPT person. Perplexity will be something I'll definitely start to weave into the stack. So what tools and techniques does Cairn Consulting use to gather data in an effective and comprehensive way?
We use a lot of the industry standard tools for programming our surveys. There's a lot of different ones that work really well. We try to source our sample from credible sources. We use some of the larger ones. We pay more for it, but it's worth the quality. We've tried using some others in the past, and the quality just isn't there. So we'll use some of the bigger suppliers for our survey sample. Most of our surveys are online, but there aren't a lot of phone surveys or mail surveys anymore. Some people still do it, government people, academics still do it, but from the business world perspective, we need to be a little bit more responsive, a little bit more nimble. It moves a little bit faster. And online data gathering and using these large sample providers helps us be a lot more responsive and feel a lot more confident in what we're doing and what we're providing. So it's almost all online. We use most of the major platforms. Each one, in terms of survey programming, has some advantages and disadvantages. And for our qualitative work, we typically will use video calls, such as whether it's Google Meet or Zoom, and do our interviews via those platforms because we can record them. We'll have voice and video. Again, it's opt-in, but we do that just because these tools have provided a real nice way for us to do interviews one-on-one, and to even do online focus groups. There are platforms that you can use that are designed for focus group usage, but what we found is, and to be quite frank about it, it's more budget conscious. Zoom has a lot of different functions you can use. You can use whiteboards, you can present visuals to your focus group participants. So, and the same thing for one-on-one interviews. So these platforms offer a very cost-effective way of doing this type of research. I mean, historically, an in-person focus group would cost in the neighborhood of about $6,000 per group.
Oh, wow.
We are currently able to execute these focus groups at a fraction of that cost. So that's, those are that's how it used to be, though. You had facility rentals, and there is a time and place for in-person focus groups still. Again, if budget is a concern and turning things around quickly is a concern, then these platforms, again, Google Meet, Zoom, either one each has great functions, bringing people together. You can see their faces, or people can, have to see their faces if they don't want to. But that to me is one of the better ways of gathering information. There's also ethnographies. This is a fairly limited usage, but then a lot of it's observational, and sometimes we have people do their own. Phones and apps. There are some apps that allow people to go out and you can give them instructions, and they can take videos, take pictures, and so on. But again, I would probably opt for just having a person do that themselves, use what's resident within their phone, and have them help you. Like, you send them a text and say, hey, could you record yourself and your family getting ready to pack for your trip this weekend, or a video of your campsite, or some stills of pictures of the view from your campsite. Those things you can use, and it offers feedback to whether it's the campground or whomever is needing that information. And I'm using camping because we serve a lot of people within outdoor hospitality, but it can apply to anything. It can be how people use a product, how the people buy a product, how they go in a store and see products on the shelf. A person taking a video of that, and if they like or don't like a display where your product is on the shelf, then they can take a picture of that and say, see, this is what I'm talking about. And it again, I talk about this a lot, I know, but it brings it alive. It brings it home. So these are all very powerful ways of doing some research of, whether it's, the surveys and being able to dig in and be responsive. We have statistical software that we use. We use one called Displayer. And it's a real powerful program. Integrates with presentations. You can do dashboards and so on as well with it. And it's a really good company. Their customer service is outstanding, and I couldn't recommend them more highly. And they've changed the way we do research. One analyst can produce 10 times as much now as they could in the past, and it's very valuable. It has all the statistical testing and modeling and discrete choice analysis embedded within it. Anyway, I could really geek out on that, but I won't. But it's just a way of saying that these tools, the tools we have to do the research now, are light years ahead of where it was when I first started in this industry, and a long time ago. So it makes us more effective. It makes us more efficient. It makes us more accurate. And it makes us more confident. Thus, you're going to be more confident. If you're working with us, you're going to be a lot more confident in the results, knowing that this is all what's in the background. And if you're doing your research yourself, you're going to feel better about it. If you have to stand up in front of a group of 500 people and present results, you want to feel good about the results. You want to feel confident. and these tools are what get you there.
Perfect. Would you say that essentially it's, you leverage these tools for data-driven decision-making and actionable insights, like what we do?
Absolutely, it is. And people, data-driven insights is in some cases overused. I saw, I think, a bank use it the other day, and I don't know, it seemed to cheapen it slightly, but not to be too critical. The fact of the matter is that's what we do, and that's what we've been doing for a long time. And what we do is we make the information more accessible, and that part of the equation sometimes gets lost in all that. Is that again, when I first started in this industry, we didn't do even a lot of times significance testing, because the business world wasn't ready for it. They would just look at percentages and say, okay, well, that's it. Now we're doing data modeling. We're doing statistical analysis at a very complex level. We're doing predictive analytics and discrete choice analysis on how people make decisions. And the business world understands it. We live in an era where, and I'll say it, I noticed this especially with a lot of younger people who are much more data savvy than my generation. So we're seeing that, and that's great. It helps everyone. People are asking critical questions. You're always going to ask critical questions, and people are always going to work. It's part of what we do. You have to grow a thick skin to be in research.
Indeed. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, so today, thanks for hopping on with Scott and Justin for Data Lens. Take care.
Bye.